After years of searching and saving, I finally upgraded my vinyl setup. Welcome back to So You're Interested In, the show where I break down an artist's discography in order to give you, the viewer, the best possible jumping off point in order to get into their catalog. On this installment, let's talk about the art rock band Palm. Forming in Philadelphia back in 2012, this group is known for its quirky approach to making music. I once saw somebody describe them as 4 people having manic episodes in 7/8 time, and honestly, it's far too accurate. But to move away from a crude description, in actuality, this group melds together the likes of math rock, progressive pop, psychedelic, and noise rock in a most intriguing way. Some of their music might fly over your head, I know it did for me, but once you find the right grooves to get into, then you're in it for the long haul. Don't expect to be hearing radio hits though. Think of these as thought experiments into the eccentric ways that people can create art. Once you leave behind your preconceived notions of how a song should be structured or played, then Palm will reward you with some kick-ass tunes. I'm not saying all this to scare you, nor am I saying that they're the only people who sound like this, but if you continue watching the video, I think I'll make a compelling case as to why you should check them out. Also, one last note, this group did unfortunately break up in 2023, so don't expect to be seeing their discography grow at all in the future. As per usual, I'm going to be recommending 2 albums and 3 individual tracks that you should be checking out in order to finally get into Palm. First things first, we got the albums. The first Palm record you should spin is their 2015 LP, Trading Basics. Taking their math and experimental rock approach and leaning it a bit closer to post-hardcore, this album is overstuffed with anxious, angular guitars that will hypnotize you on a first listen. Actually, the guitars and bass are utterly enthralling and a tad unsettling throughout the whole project. For example, take this album's second cut, Crank. Within moments of hitting play, you are thrust into the wacky world of Palm. The guitar interplay sounds unholy, like an exorcism gone wrong, but there's still enough of a groove there for you to latch onto and bob your head along with. Crank is a killer first song to hear because it is slightly askew and misaligned, much like the majority of their catalog. Seriously, do not pass up on this banger. Next in the tracklist is another standout, and this song is called Ankles. The start and stop percussion could give you whiplash if you try to nod your head along with it, as this does feel even more broken than Crank. The warbly dissonant vocals feel out of place, but in fairness, this entire song feels out of place, creating an entire world of its own. Then comes a tune like Egg in a Frame, which definitely follows more in line with traditional rock songwriting, albeit there are some caveats. For starters, this is slower than both Crank and Ankles, but that doesn't mean it hits any less hard. This song feels like it could have been written and recorded in the mid to late 70s, though it would have been far too futuristic for anybody back then. Nowadays, we get to enjoy this psychedelic tinge tune and not bat an eye, though that doesn't mean it's cookie cutter in any way, shape, or form. One last song I'd like to mention is Garden, the album's penultimate cut. It always surprises me that this isn't the album's closer, mainly because it feels like the most epic track that Trading Basics has to offer. Plus, it's the type of song that takes its time developing, slowly compounding, unraveling, and blossoming into a passionate piece. It feels like an artistic statement, and you can take that any way you want to. To be frank, I don't think there are any truly normal Palm albums to start you off with, so you might as well hold your nose and take the plunge into Trading Basics, knowing that it might be a jarring experience. The next album from Palm to seek out should be their 2022 effort, Nicks and Grazes. So to be honest with you, I've been trying to write this script for like 2-ish months now, and I couldn't find a good comparison for this band. Then I recently re-listened to Animal Collective's Merriweather Post Pavilion, and it all made sense. It all came flashing before my eyes. Basically, if you like the bounciness of Animal Collective, specifically on Merriweather Post Pavilion, then odds are you're really gonna dig Nicks and Grazes. For example, the song Feather features wonderful pop-adjacent vocals all over these deep synths and hollow drums. Feathers puts the guitars in the backseat way more than usual, allowing the lush textures to be in the spotlight, making this, dare I say, radio-friendly. Then there's a track like On the Sly, which is another slinky cut that dribbles along like a drug addict. The swaying guitars sound amazing, and the song itself flows nicely for a track with so many jolts. Away Kit is yet another standout, however this is much more airy and light. It relies very heavily on the ethereal vocals, swirling background textures, and fantastically designed percussion. Some might write this tune off as a nothing burger, but I personally think it's great for new listeners. Not to mention, it bleeds perfectly into the next track, Suffer Dragon, which is an even more crazy and chaotic version of an Aphex Twin song. Yeah, the sequencing on this project is bonkers. But finally, I want to bring up the song Tumble Boy. The prominently featured dipping guitars feel like they are falling asleep and stammering awake every few notes, making it really feel like this is tumbling along. This probably isn't going to be the song that blows you away, but it is a wonderful culmination culmination of this whole record's ethos and attitude. If the colder feel of Trading Basics isn't your thing, then allow the colorful and vibrant Nicks and Grazes to become your new Palm favorite. That is going to do it for the albums, but don't you fret, because we still got some tracks to cover. The first Palm track to check out should be Walkie Talkie from the band's 2017 EP, Shadow Expert. This is yet another off-kilter, tightly wound, wonky kind of song with snippy guitar riffs and smashing percussion fills. Things are simply all over the place in the mix, bouncing around like an Olympic table tennis ball. Seriously, the guitars feel like watching two wizards battling it out in some epic duel. I don't know, man, this band is hard to describe. The only somewhat grounded part of the song comes from the vocals, which do their best to keep things from flying off the rails. The vocals will keep you sane on a first listen, while the glistening instrumental will have you coming back for more. Do yourself a favor and don't skip out on Walkie Talkie. Next up, go ahead and listen to Theme from Rock Island from the 2018 album, Rock Island. This, ladies and germs, is what I would like to call easy math rock listening. Does that make much sense? Probably not, but allow me to explain. This is so much more laid back than anything I've talked about thus far. It's not quite as bright and beachy as Nicks and Grazes, but it sure does get damn close. I'd even go as far to say that this is their most accessible song. It still has the Palm charm of using weird-ass instruments, but this isn't nearly as noisy as anything from Trading Basics. If you've been apprehensive about their music, or if you've soured on the material that I've talked about to this point, please do not pass by Theme from Rock Island because it is such a wonderful tune. Hell, if it were summer right now, I'd be posted up in a lawn chair with a cerveza in hand, blasting this sunshiny track. Finally, I think you should lend your ear to the A side of their Ostrich Vacation cassette. I know it's not technically a song, but just trust me on this. Titled Dime, Drift, Communication, Trust, Small Mouth, this 9-minute long quilt of song segments is quite the listen. It's a very raw look at the early days of this band, playing much more like a demo than an actual studio recording. Some might argue that you should listen to this first, but to hell with the naysayers. Putting this on after listening to Nicks and Grazes will be objective proof that this band has evolved massively since their humble beginnings. It might not be as mathy, it might not be as weird, but it's still something worth hearing. I'm not saying this will become a fan favorite by any means, but I do think it gives great insight to Palm as a band, which I think is necessary to hear when trying to get into their material. And personally, I prefer the more piecemeal approach to the A side in comparison to the more structurally sound B side. Dime, Drift, Communication, Trust, Small Mouth might just be an experiment, but this is still an experiment that you're gonna want to check out. And that will conclude my video covering Palm. Links to all of the albums and tracks discussed here will be located in the video description box below. Scroll down even further to the comment section where you can let me know if you liked any of the albums or tracks that I picked here. Maybe you're a huge Palm fan and you think that I'm a massive fraud for even making this video. That's fine, go to the comments and let me know. While in the comments, you can also suggest any artist that you'd like to see covered on so you're interested in. This video in particular was actually suggested by one of you, so I really appreciate it. If you can't stop talking about music, if it's all that you ever discuss, then please feel free to join the Forever Spinning Discord server. There will be a link in the description for that as well, so please feel free to join. We're talking old music, we're talking new music, we're talking vinyl, we're just talking. And of course, if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. I do other shows here outside of Stereo you're interested in, such as Stacks of Wax, The Variety Show, and Where It's At. I'm always churning out new content, baby. And actually, while I was filming this, I just crossed over 3,000 subscribers, so thank you so much to anybody who is subscribed and has joined the Forever Spinning family. But yeah, that's gonna do it, outside of my usual reminder for you to go out and support your local record store if you were able to, along with the local artists in your area, and well, till I see you next time, happy listening.